Hello, everyone. My name's Emilio, and today I'll be walking through an end-to-end example of how Databricks can help streamline lead processing and import into Salesforce. I'm relatively new to Databricks, so while this may not be the most optimized way of doing things, the goal is to show you how easy it is to automate workflows that used to take much longer, especially when incorporating OpenAI into the flow. So in front of us, we have a notebook that I created inside of Databricks. This notebook is going to help us do a few things. It's going to help us extract lead data from a CSV file. We will clean and standardize the data using OpenAI. We'll authenticate into Salesforce, and we will import those leads into Salesforce. Now, this is a number of ways you can accomplish this, but this is my first stab at how you can walk through the process of both getting all of your libraries into the notebook that helps us perform all the steps. So let's run through this. So step one, the first thing we need to do is install all of our required libraries. And in this instance, Databricks doesn't automatically connect to Salesforce or OpenAI through notebooks. So we're going to help it by installing Python libraries. So we have simple Salesforce for our Salesforce API interaction. We're going to install OpenAI for cleaning the lead data and calling OpenAI. And we're going to also install pandas and request for data manipulation and API calls. So let's go ahead and run these. Great. And we're just going to restart Python to make sure we have the latest libraries. Now, the next step is we want to store credentials. So we've got a number of credentials that we have that we want to carry out throughout the rest of the scripts that we'll load later. So in this instance, we have Salesforce username, password, and security token. We have OpenAI API key, and we also have the Databricks REST API. So we'll want to store those in Databricks secrets. Now, within the production release of Databricks, there is a way for you to configure these through the UI. So this may not be the most optimal way of doing it, as I mentioned before, but this also gives us an idea of if we ever needed to use secrets and we had to apply those to Python code behind the scenes, here's how we actually could do this. So if we scroll down, we'll show this step here where any of the values that we need to store will have whatever our scope is, whatever our key is, and our values. And the same thing goes for any of the values you want to store, especially for Salesforce credentials. We might have our username, our password, and our token. Let's go ahead and run this so we can store these values. Okay, we've now got those stored. And if we ever needed to update the credentials, we also have another way we can do that as well, which is going to be through the Databricks CLI. So we pass in both the instance name and the token for Databricks. And then there will be an update secret method we could call that allows for us to update those values if we ever need to. Next, we're just going to retrieve the secrets from Databricks, pass them into our notebook. What we want to do is just make sure to assign those secrets to the variables that we will reference later on. Now, let's go and get a updated CSV file and let's import this into our workspace. So here, go over here to the left-hand side, default, Salesforce Leads. And this is where we're storing this. I'm going to go to the directory just above and I'm going to upload to volume. And we're going to drag and drop a new file into our workspace. Perfect. Now that's loaded up. I'm just going to change the path of the CSV here. And we just want to see what this file looks like. So let's run this cell here. And as we can see, we have a lead CSV that has about 3 records in it. As we can see, we've got David, Francine, and Veronica. And you can see how the values are mismatched. This will be a great candidate to see how OpenAI is going to fix these values. So let's go to the next step. So what we want to do is we want to create code we can reuse that we can call OpenAI, where we pass in a list of all of these leads, and it will then return back a JSON string with those values being cleaned and verified. So if we scroll down a little bit more, this is how we're calling OpenAI. We pass in our API key. We pass in our prompt, very similar to how you would with ChatGPT. And you can see what we're saying in our prompt. We need OpenAI to evaluate our data and then respond back with the data being either capitalized in some cases. If an email's missing, put in the company domain, standardize the phone number, and even the lead source. So it matches something like you're used to seeing in Salesforce. And then return only valid JSON with no additional text. So we'll go ahead and we'll run this. Okay, great. Now we have the clean lead data. Now go to the next step, which we want to take the data that you saw previously, and we want to apply the cleaning function to all of those leads. So we're just going to update our CSV path. We'll run this. So now it's going to take each of those records and it's going to show you the cleaned version of each of those. So now we have those three values, and now you see the records are now much more clean, much more consistent. So now the next step is to go and connect to Salesforce and import those leads. So the first step we need to do is just authenticate using simple Salesforce with our username, password, and our token. Okay, we've got a Salesforce object. This just lets us know that we have a active session. So the next step is actually calling our Salesforce bulk API. So this would allow for us to take the records that we had previously, and we're mapping in some of the values or the fields from what they are in our CSV file to what they need to be in Salesforce. And this is how we're passing in those values. And then here is where we're going to then have our batch pass those values through. So we'll go ahead and run this. And at the bottom, we should see, because we're using the bulk API, this is really fast. So as you can see here, we have 3 new values that got passed into Salesforce. So the next step, we can run a query if we wanted to get the latest records that have been loaded into Salesforce. We can see them in our notebook. Now, it may also just be easier for you to go into Salesforce and refresh your screen. And now we should see David Williams, got Francine, and Veronica. And we'll just sort by created date. So it's easier to see the 3 of those. And that's it. So as you can see, the process of being able to take a CSV file and integrate that with OpenAI to clean the data and then import that data into Salesforce using the bulk API is actually relatively straightforward. I was actually super excited to go through this and watch this work. But what's also great is that if you ever do get stuck, if you ever have any issue with any of the code that you're writing, another great thing is actually using the assistant. Now, throughout this process, I've had certain instances where I've had a question or I've had a bug, and anytime something has come up, it's actually able to evaluate the code I've written and actually give me suggestions on revisions to that code. So the great thing about this is that you don't have to get stuck. If you have an idea and you want to try it, try the code out, see if it works, but just know that if it's not quite right, there are tools now available inside of Databricks that'll help you get to the next step. So I would say this, give it a shot. There's nothing to lose. And it's been absolutely fantastic working with this. I look forward to learning more. And if there's any other topics within Databricks that you would like for me to cover, please let me know.